Okay, this is take 2. Hi, I did this yesterday and it was really awesome. We had a really good conversation, but then it didn't save. So I'm hoping that Instagram will cooperate today and will allow me to save this, because obviously you can't, stay here and listen to all of it or catch it. So I'm really hoping it saves. I always try to, but sometimes Instagram's a little glitchy. So wanted to come and talk about some of the questions that have been arising about now bigger questions, right? About glyphosate and GMOs and organic versus non-organic and all of this stuff. So I wanted to answer some of those. I also wanted to talk more about Weight Watchers for kids, because we were talking about that yesterday, and I think it's an important conversation for us to be having, and I know a lot of you wanted to hear that, so I'm doing this again. So if you were here yesterday, I might be repeating a lot of what I said yesterday, so bear with me. And as always, as you guys put comments here, I will try to answer them, and it just steers the conversation. So sometimes it takes us on a totally different course. So let's do our best. I'm looking at the time, so I'm mindful of it. Nettie, hi Netta. I am going to quickly check my DMs. I don't know if I can I think I could do that via Facebook, because I don't want to lose this. So as I check those, tell me guys, how is your Sunday going? If you saw, I took my dog to this place called Martial Arts. It's sort of like a little doggy gym. They teach obedience and agility, and he goes on the treadmill there. So believe it or not, when we first, we went there because we heard it was fun, and we live in an apartment, so we don't have a backyard, so he can't really play. And they told us that he needed to lose like 7 pounds. So believe it or not, Oliver has been on a little bit of a diet. So that's why we go there, but he also loves it. So today he learned how to sit pretty, play dead. He went on the Bosu ball that he works on his core strength. And I'm just trying to pull up these DMs on. So if you guys didn't know, if you guys have a Facebook business page, you can actually answer DMs through there, except like I find that I can never find how to scroll on there. Oh no, hi Jenna. So yeah, so I got this. I would love to hear, I know there's a lot of RDs on here and other nutritionists and professionals. So chime in, please, and correct me if I say anything wrong. But I try not to. And if I don't know something, I will let you know who you should be going to. Oh, you guys, let me see. I gotta type in. I need to look at Netta's message. And I think, okay. Okay, I see it. Okay, so let's talk. What should we talk about first? We have Weight Watchers, kids, we have glyphosate, and the GG crackers. Not all of you even know what a GG cracker is. Better off. No. So here, let's talk about the GG crackers, because that's why I know a lot of you are here. So I'm not really sure how this chain of events got started, but GG scandal, my understanding is that people were worried about the fact that GG crackers have been sprayed with Roundup, or I guess the ingredients that go into GG crackers. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Roundup and agriculture and farming, because that isn't really my expertise. I'm a dietitian, but actually as a dietitian, we do learn about GMOs and organic farming practices and sustainability and all this stuff. So we do have that background, but I, of course, always do my own research as well before I say anything. So I did quite a bit of research on this, and I'm going to kind of give my opinion substantiated by the evidence that I found and some other experts in the field. So specifically, Food Science Babe and Farm Babe are two amazing, I think they're PhDs in agriculture and biotechnology. So they're really, really great to go to for information. But I think this is like actually an interesting conversation, because to me it kind of speaks to a bigger almost political issue. So I don't get political because I don't go there, but I think it comes down to our distrust of Western medicine, our distrust of big business, our distrust of like corporations as a society. So we really like to have something to almost get upset about. And I see this all the time. We're in this period of cancel culture. Like the second anyone does something that like we don't like or might be different from our own beliefs, we get really angry. So this is like a really exciting thing to be angry about. But what I see here is confirmation bias. So what confirmation bias is when you have this belief that you want to be true. So you go around, you look for evidence that supports your belief, and you kind of shut your mind off to evidence that goes against your belief. So you'll often see this with people who have very strong beliefs about one diet or another. So like paleo people, for instance, the paleo people will go in search of research that supports paleo, and there is research that supports pretty much everything, and then they won't necessarily share anything that doesn't support paleo. So that is sort of confirmation bias. And with this goes into like this way bigger political conversation about Monsanto and now Bayer, who has bought Monsanto. This is not a new conversation, but I guess it just became relevant, especially within our little community of Instagram. Like we all kind of are connected in some way. So let me give you a little bit of the history of Roundup as a chemical that's been used in agriculture for many, many years. So in the 1970s, Roundup was first introduced as a pesticide, herbicide. They're used interchangeably to the United States, and it is up until now one of the most widely used pesticides. There have been other pesticides through history that have been commonly used. DDT is another one, and that was one that was under the Monsanto umbrella. So people don't like Monsanto. People just historically do not. There's sort of like a very big anti-Monsanto crusade, and everyone seems to conflate Monsanto with this GMO debate. And I don't really think it's a debate. I think it's a conversation that is fueled by emotion and not always by science. So we talked about GMOs yesterday and how they're not always a bad thing. Actually, they can be a very good thing. And in fact, like the reason why we have such amazing things like seedless watermelon is thanks to GMOs. So of course, there's like anything, there's good and bad parts of this conversation. So with Monsanto and Roundup is a herbicide, pesticide. Pesticides kill plants. So why would you want to use that on your plant, basically, right? So basically, farmers have to contend with weeds and things that get in the way of growing their food. So really, you're not spraying Roundup on your crops, you're spraying it on the plants around your crops, but there is residue that gets on your crops, right? Because they're spraying it. Basically, I've seen these crazy memes where they show a farmer in like a gas protection uniform spraying the fields. And from what I understand is that's really not how it works. There's like an ounce of Roundup that goes into spraying these things, and it's mixed with water. And so yes, Roundup is being used, and it's being used probably on all of your food for the most part. Organic food is not sprayed. It is not sprayed with Roundup. It's sprayed with other pesticides. Pesticides are used in organic agriculture, and when they test samples of organic food, they often find residue from regular pesticides. So to give you another thing to worry about, you're not, just because you eat organic doesn't necessarily mean you're eating pesticide free. But the good news is pesticides aren't necessarily the biggest threat to civilization at this time. So why all of the commotion? More recently, there's been a lawsuit with Bayer, who now took over Monsanto, so Roundup is sort of their problem now, about the possibility of I think it's in California, farmers from California, that had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and whether or not it was caused by their exposure to Roundup. So first of all, we have to remember that it's very different if you're the farmer using Roundup every single day in your day-to-day life and being exposed to it versus the consumer who is buying GG crackers and eating them, or buying Cheerios. That's another thing that has, been found to have glyphosate residue. So pretty much all of our food, unless you grow your food in your backyard in the United States, probably is going to be contaminated with some kind of pesticide residue. Now, is that a danger to us? Should we be worried about this? Well, I have a long list of things that I worry about, and we all do. We all have like different issues that we worry about. Like some people use paper straws and that's their thing. Other people are worried about religious issues. And for me, nutrition is a big issue. And within my nutrition, I have a scale of things that I need to worry about because being healthy is hard. So for me, I make sure I get in exercise, I make sure I get sleep, I make sure I get fruits and vegetables and fiber and protein, and my calories are in check, and that my mental health is good. And then I go down the line of things that I can control, and I try to pick the best foods that I can. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot about our food supply that we as consumers don't necessarily know. So we are relying on companies to tell us what's in the food. But, what's interesting is that they don't always necessarily know. A food company doesn't necessarily know what kind of pesticides might be sprayed on their crop because they're not out in the fields. They just can go and say, this is what's going on here. These are the farming practices. Then they leave and they go home and everything happens, through the chain. So when you're asking like a food company about specific residue on the crops that then make its way into your food, they don't really have an answer for you. So if you go to a farmer's market and you talk to a farmer and you say, hey, what are the pesticides that you're using to grow your food? Just because it's from a farmer's market doesn't mean it's organic. In fact, it probably isn't organic because to get certified organic is very expensive. And in order for them to grow crops and make money, they do need to rely on pesticides to make it financially viable. So I am not saying whether or not it's like a good or bad thing that we have this, because that is a much bigger political conversation and you can go digging with that. There was a really good article on Medium talking about this, what will happen to our world if we didn't have things like glyphosate, like what will happen to our food supply and what will happen to farmers and their income and all this stuff. So this is not so easy as like, oh my God, I can't believe a company might use a pesticide on food that I eat. No, there's a lot of people involved and it goes all the way up to the top. So what I do want to say though about this is that specifically GG crackers are a wheat-based product, right? Their wheat bran is the #1 ingredient. And glyphosate is very, very rarely used on wheat. Yes, and they never claim, and so Michelle is Normalizing Nutrition is here, Happy Strong Healthy RD is Jenna Werner, they're both RDs. So from my research is that glyphosate is not used on wheat, very, very seldomly used pre-harvest on wheat because it's just not a pesticide that's used. So if you're worrying about glyphosate in a wheat-based product, it's probably not the biggest concern. So then it gets into the question is, so GG crackers are not organic, they are non-GMO, and guess what? That means absolutely nothing, pretty much. And it's not to say that that's good or bad, it's that GMO is also not a bad thing necessarily. It could be bad, it could be good, it all comes down to the individual product. Non-GMO is a marketing term. Thanks, guys. Yes, so GG crackers aren't really going to be able to say anything because they're not certified organic, so they don't really know what is and isn't sprayed on their food. And so glyphosate is pretty much, I think it's there's some countries that are trying to ban it, and then there are other countries, I know France is one of them, that have like strict regulations on its use. Gigi crackers, I guess, are made in Norway, so I can't speak for Norway's like farming practices, but it does seem that, they use it. It's very, very prevalent. It's used in the United States. So if you're in the United States eating food, chances are your food has glyphosate residue on it. So there's that. But the correlation, like I guess at the end of the day, we have to look at what are we most worried about? Are we worried about eating this food and getting cancer? Are we worried about like bigger business, like the political implications of this? Are we worried that if we eat this, like our kids are going to have birth defects? Because if you look at the research, there is no research. So yeah, they've never lied about any of it. Our understanding is that if it's not organic, there are certain pesticides that can be used in conventional farming. So like, it's not a big surprise, basically. Like, it just seems to be one person gets like upset about it, and then the next person, but like, this is not new news. If you look at a food product, if it's not organic, then you probably can assume that it's going to be grown with some sort, well, probably glyphosate, because it's the most heavily used pesticide in the United States. So yes, I think it's this alarmist nature. It's also the nature of Instagram. Like, one person freaks out about it, and then someone else, and the next person. So if you eat Gigi crackers, I first of all highly recommend you do your research, but that is not through Instagram. Research, even go on Google, but go on trustworthy websites. Don't go on Food Babe. Don't go on her. Go to something like healthline.com, medium.com. I hate to say it, but even something like the Huffington Post. I was looking through their articles, and they can't say that it causes cancer because it hasn't been proven. So what people are up in arms about is that there was one organization that basically said that it's possible that glyphosate is a possible carcinogenic. That doesn't tell you anything about the dose. It doesn't tell you anything about like, is it in food? Is it through handling? So the risk for a farmer is very different than a risk for a consumer. So that's one thing that we have to understand. The other thing we have to understand is that anyone who claims to have any anyone who claims to prove that glyphosate causes cancer is not correct. Anyone who says that it does not cause cancer is also not correct, right? Based on the research that we have, it shows that, yes, it doesn't seem to cause cancer, but it hasn't been proven one way or another. So that's the nature of research. That's what's so hard about being in this field, and really any scientific field, is that there's always like kind of research either way. So we don't know yet. So you always have to, use caution with anything. And I brought this up too with the artificial sweetener debate, is there's a lot we don't know yet. So Food Babe, yes, I'm blowing her spot, but she just has put out so much crap over the years that, yes. So Food Babe is someone who, she's a very big, like, anti-Monsanto, anti-big business blogger. And to me, I think she puts out a lot of information as fact that really isn't, and it gets people scared. Everyone loves to be scared about something. At the end of the day, want to bring it back to like the big picture. If that's the only thing you have to worry about with your diet, then you should worry about it. But for me and most of the clients that I work with, there's a lot of other crap that we have to work through first, to worry about the potential of GMOs doing something that hasn't been proven and really, hopefully is unlikely. That's on you. As a consumer, you have to decide what you want to eat and what you don't want to eat and what companies you want to trust. But as a professional, our job is to look at the research that we currently have and give recommendations based on that, not based on our emotions. Because it is easy to look at these things and say like, oh my God, I'm giving my kids like this poison. But when have we ever had like a epidemic of kids dying from from Cheerios? Like pesticide residue from Cheerios. It hasn't ever happened. So it's just, for me, not something that I choose to worry about. I have other things, other crap I worry about. And I also, unfortunately or fortunately, know that most of my food is grown with glyphosate. It's the most widely used pesticide in the United States. So for me to think that it's not would be crazy. And then, the rest of the stuff it's just like, why? It's like that Legally Blonde quote, like, why now, right? So why are we just worrying about it now? GG crackers have been around for a very long time in Norway, in the United States, and they've never claimed to be organic. And if something is conventional, I would say, my assumption is it is grown with glyphosate. There is some, but my understanding is glyphosate is very, very, very seldomly used on wheat. So we're looking at a wheat-based product. What are the chances that this is even like an actual issue? Probably not big, but I understand, like, we all have our list of things to care about. And this is, Jared Freed is one of my favorite comics, and he says this when people get all upset about the paper straws and the turtles. Like, if I use a plastic straw, I get it. I have other issues. Like, maybe I'm worried about autism or something, and you are worried about the straws. Like, we all have our issues. So I think, for me is that I want to trust the government agencies that are here to help us. Like, if we're saying that we shouldn't necessarily trust any of this information, we're ultimately saying that we shouldn't trust the agencies that are meant to keep us safe. And yes, there are flaws with them. Like, I'm one of the first to look at the FDA with an eye of like, really, how is that getting along? But I also understand that there's like a lot more going on that we don't understand in how they work. Glyphosate has been in so many lawsuits time and time again that have not necessarily been won because there is no proof. So again, we might find out it's an issue at some point. Like, we might find that out, that it does cause it, or that it is. Honestly, I don't think we'll ever find out that it causes cancer, because in the nature of scientific research, it's very hard to prove causation, only correlation. Will we ever even find out it's correlated with that? I don't know. So what's my bottom line? First of all, I was always eating conventional food before like this. I also, to me, I'm not like an anti-Monsanto crusader. I understand that this is part of what keeps our economy going and keeps our society going. So if I have the luxury of choosing organic food and buying organic food, that's on me. But I also have to understand, as a professional, I can't go around like preaching to everyone that they should only buy organic food when really it doesn't seem to be that much more important. And the risk of, like, first of all, like, your organic food also probably has pesticides on it, so sorry. And it's just on the level of things of importance. Like, we got to worry about getting people to a healthy, happy weight. We have to worry about, like, for me, I'm more worried about helping people fix their relationship with food rather than worry about glyphosate when it doesn't really seem to be too big of an issue. So it's upsetting, I know, and it's like very emotionally charged. It is very emotionally charged, and that's what's so hard about some of these conversations, is that we want to take a stance on it, and it's like, it's easy to get upset about it, but no one lied to you. The information's out there. You can go and you can read any of the research studies that have ever been done with glyphosate. And yes, some of them are funded by Monsanto, because to me, if someone came and questioned my integrity, I would fund a study and show that this is what it is. So you're always going to find studies that are funded by them because it's their product and they want to put out information. It's like when you go to a food company or you go to Quest Bars and everyone's like, well, are Quest Bars labels accurate? Yeah, they're the one funding the nutrition label, because I don't want to spend $1,500 to go send out my Quest Bar and find out if it's accurate. So either I trust them or I go do my own stuff. So that's that's where some of the funding questions come in. But what I would say, even like more than me, go to someone, an agricultural scientist, go to a farmer, talk to them. It's interesting because you'll see that most farmers are on the side of if there was no pesticides, there would be a major problem. So it's a bigger conversation. It's one that's still unclear. I think it's one that's going to be happening. Would I stop eating something because there's glyphosate on it? I already knew there's glyphosate on it, so nothing changed for me. My understanding is that most of my food, if it's conventional, is going to have that, and I haven't had any like adverse health effects. I also haven't really seen any research that would show me that there should be. So I'm not fearful of it, but I completely understand that some people might be, and also some people have health issues that they're not sure where they stem from. So if you cut something out and it makes you feel better, you should do that. You have to be your own health advocate. Most importantly, you have to experiment by yourself. But for me, I'm not, necessarily like jumping on any bandwagon either, or I'm just sitting back and waiting to see what happens. Will I stop eating them? No, because like I said, I already knew that they probably would have some sort of pesticide residue. But like I said, ultimately, like the bigger conversation is that wheat is not really ever sprayed with glyphosate. So if you're looking at a wheat-based product, that's just something to think about. So with that, try to look into some of the research on it. I think there's a documentary, I've not watched it, but I came across it as I was researching, called Food Evolution. That's how, if you're interested more in like the politics of this and the different conversations, it seems to be a really unbiased documentary, which is rare. So that I'm definitely gonna watch that one. So I suggest that you do too if it's something you're interested in. But this also goes into a little bit about GMO. If something is non-GMO, does that make it better? Does that make it safer? And no, it doesn't. And if something is GMO, that also doesn't make it bad. GMOs and the process of genetic modification is what is allowing us as a society to keep moving forward with food technology and farming and sustainability. Without GMOs, like, we would have a major sustainability issue. So we have to look at it from all points of view. It comes down to a lot of things. It's sort of like the vaccination, anti-vaxxers and stuff like that. And they look at certain, if it hits close to home for you, you have a vested interest in that conversation. For me, glyphosate on my Gigi crackers does not really affect me in any real way, so I'm not that worried about it. I have to look at it and say, should I be recommending this product to my clients? And from all the information I have, the answer is yes. The answer is there's no issue here. So that's where I stand on it. I am open to, and I'm always open to like being proven wrong. I just need, I need the receipts. So I'm continuing to look into more of this. To be honest with you, I don't do a ton of like organic and GMO research. I focus more on like the clinical side of nutrition, but I think it kind of revived that interest in me to look more into it, because it is something always, thanks Rachel, it is something always that comes up, like even the question about hormones in meat, and that also annoys me as a dietitian, because there is no hormones in chicken and they're not allowed to be used. So what is this hormone-free chicken? It's called marketing, and it does piss me off because it's like sort of like with beauty products. Although I was a beauty writer in my day a couple years ago, but I'm not necessarily an expert on like clean beauty and all this stuff. So I need to listen to like what, when I buy a product, I buy Kopari and it says clean product, like what does that mean to me? Not really much, because I don't really know too much about clean or unclean beauty products. So I have to listen to the experts there, the beauty experts, who tell me what's going on with that. So this is just, people really like to get angry about things, is what I've come to learn about this society, especially in the United States. So people really they're like, GMOs, they're gonna kill us. Who's they? Farmers, little Billy out in Iowa is gonna kill us with his GMOs? No, he's trying to make a living and trying to figure out how he can make enough potatoes to feed this country. So not everything is bad. Not everything that's big business or government regulated is bad. We are all trying to just stay alive. So I think maybe we need to be doing a better job educating about GMO and organic and what it is. And I think we also need to, as a profession, RDs in general, need to get on the same page with it and education, because I do see, even the dirty dozen, clean 15 thing, we have to realize that it's always going to be better to eat a conventional piece of broccoli than no broccoli at all. It just is. So I get upset when I see people not eating some of these fruits or vegetables because they are conventional or the organic is 3 times the price. So I need to take a deep breath. Okay. So that's that convo a little bit. I'm going to link some people who are way smarter than I am about this stuff. Yeah, it is confusing about when RDs aren't on the same page. And the truth is there's just so much we don't know. So it is possible to make an argument for or against, or either or. But I don't think I think really what we have to say is the jury's still out. And we have to be honest with that. So to me, I think what happens is it feels better. It feels like organic should be better. So that's why it's recommended. Whereas a lot of again, it's confirmation bias. A lot of the research doesn't really show that. So you want to say it's better, but really we don't have that information. So, but it just feels better. Oh my God, thank God I don't have kids right now, honestly, because if I was a mom in this day and age where oh my God, you gave your kid something like Cheerios with glyphosate, yeah, just be careful about washing fruits and vegetables. Absolutely, because that does remove a lot of the pesticide residue. Yeah, that's a really good point, Jen. So someone said something. The book Food Truths from Farm to Table, it covers a lot of this. I'm going to write that down. Thank you, Rachel. I did not know about that one. And honestly, like I said, I haven't been that heavily invested in this type of research. I do a lot more of do calories matter, or put everyone on a diet, and the people on the low fat diet lost as much as the low carb diet and the high fat diet when it's calorically controlled. So this is also a different part of nutrition, but I'm glad we're having the conversation. And I think that's the other thing, Annie, I always say there are experts who are not RDs in the nutrition field. There are people who are really, really smart that don't have RDs, but it's harder to weed through that and to know who to listen to. I think this is a bigger issue in general, is that there isn't a lot of regulation with who can be giving nutrition advice, and the regulation that is there isn't really followed, and there's no way to really enforce it. So it's sort of needing legal advice and going to a lawyer, or going to your neighbor who's shouting about something, and you're you didn't even go to law school, so what are you talking about? So not to say, what's tricky is that we all eat, so, and we all kind of feel we have the right to talk about it, but I do find for me as an RD, it doesn't mean that I have all the knowledge. I do a lot of research on my own, and my research is all done through scientific journal studies. It's not done through Huffington Post and the New York Times. So before I came on here, I was doing hours of research about GMOs and all of that, because I don't want to say anything that isn't true or isn't founded, because it can get emotional, you can get heated with this stuff, and it's easy to kind of veer off. Thank you, Jen. I did my makeup myself. I can let you know what products I use if you want. But like honestly, the best stuff ever is the Cover FX highlighter drops. I feel like that was one of the best finds ever. They definitely make you look like they give your cheek dimension. The Glossier Cloud Paint and then Cover FX highlighter, very good for dimension. So that became like a political kind of thing. Professors from UC Berkeley and UC Davis Bioengineering and Agricultural Tech are great resources too. Both their articles and many professors on Twitter and writing. That's great. So professors, yeah, PhDs, that's also pretty helpful. Like PhDs are great because they are the research extraordinaires. They know how to read research and interpret it, and usually pretty trustworthy. And believe it or not, my nails are like Kiss press-on nails. I actually glue them on because I can go get a manicure and 2 days later, even if it's a gel or a powder, it's chipped. So these are just the black ones. I wear them a lot. And I know Skinny Hangover Olivia also does. She's a press-on queen. So I get a lot of compliments on them. And honestly, it's like $9 or something at Target. And they last for like 3 weeks. And it's great. And I am really, really bad at anything with coordination. So even I can put them on. And then I cut them because I don't like them long. I cut them and file them. Press-ons are life-changing. Because one of my least favorite things in the world is sitting at a nail salon and waiting. Just waiting. Like I feel like I'm wasting my life away. I literally count like how many more fingers they have. I can't. It's not relaxing at all to me. So I really like them. Someone asked another question. Oh, I don't know. Let's talk about Weight Watchers again. So I've downloaded the Weight Watchers for kids, the Weight Watchers Kids app. It's called Kurbo, Kurbo. And I signed up as a, patient. It's not a patient, as a user of the app. So I'm waiting to be matched with my coach. But we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on it. So the first thing is, there's no question that there is an obesity epidemic in this country. There's no question that childhood obesity rates are on the rise. So do we need some kind of intervention? Seems like we do, especially because your eating habits when you're young do carry over to your eating habits as an adult. Anecdotally, what I see in my practice is my adult clients have a lot of eating issues that are carried over from their youth, and most of them stem from being on diets, not from not being on diets. It stems from going in that Weight Watchers meeting with mom when they were 10 years old. It stems from, having different lunches than their peers. It stems from, like for me, I was dieting when I was like 13 because my dancing school teacher told me I needed to lose weight, and because my mom accidentally said I needed the bigger size and things. So these are very, this is like bigger than just put kids on a diet, give kids food advice, and like maybe they'll lose weight for their health. We have to remember that eating disorders are a real thing, and this type of targeting someone who's 8 years old to go on their first diet when they haven't even gone through menstruation yet. They might not have even started school sports yet. We don't necessarily know what's going on. So the first question is, if a child is overweight or obese, is why? What's the reason? Is it an issue? Is it a real medical issue? Of course, I'd hope that the parent would rule that out first. And the second question is, who's feeding? Who's in charge of meals? Is it a family issue? Is it that the family's not eating together, or what the family's eating is an issue? Is it a quality of food issue? Is it a kid who's maybe hiding or sneaking food? Why are they doing that? Is it because they're limited? Is they're told that they shouldn't be eating? So there's a lot of things that go into why or why not a child would be overweight and what to do with it. So I'm not necessarily saying that there's no safe way for us to intervene if a child is a health risk, if their weight is a health risk. I don't think that it should be through an app that is, the coaches have zero credentials. Not that they're not dietitians. They don't even have a nutrition degree. They don't even have a science degree. Only one of their coaches had a bio degree. The rest of them, like I said, one of them was a real estate agent. Someone was like an interior designer, which is great. I'm sure they're very good at their jobs, but why are we having them teach our children at such a young age and such an important age how to eat? So that was my first issue with it. My next issue was when I downloaded the app, I wanted to see what the concept was. So basically, you track your food, you put in your food for the day, and they give you different colors. So let's say if I put in an apple, I get a green circle. Green is good. Yellow is like so-so, and red is bad. So if I put in that fruit or vegetable, I get a green circle. If I put in a lean protein like chicken or fish, I get a yellow. And then if I put in like simple carbs or fats, like avocado, I'm pretty sure was red, peanut butter was red, olive oil was red, I get a red. So I put in a very, very conservative day of eating into the app, and I put in that I was 8 years old. So I put in one serving of pancakes with no syrup and no butter, and I put in that I had an apple with that. And I think I put in that I had peanut butter with that. And then I put in for lunch 2 slices of whole wheat bread with turkey and cheese and a banana. And then for dinner, afternoon snack, I put in a granola bar. And then for dinner, I put in chicken with a baked potato with butter and broccoli with a little olive oil. And I got like 6 red circles. And you're only allowed 12 red circles for the entire week. So that was one day of eating where, like, if I was an obese kid and that is what I was eating, I'm pretty sure that would be like a weight loss day anyway. So what are we telling them that they should be eating? Even if we do want to promote weight loss, that's probably a weight loss day, and we're saying that that's too much. So now we're creating this understanding that avocado and peanut butter are bad foods and that we can't eat them. And then 20 years later, they come into my office and they're still scared to eat a banana, or they're still scared to eat avocado or olive oil. And that's really the conversation. It's not, do we have an obesity epidemic and do we need to do something about it? It's that we also have a dieting epidemic, and we have a eating disorder epidemic, and we have a lot of things that are going on, and a lot of them stem from childhood. So I think for me, if it was my kid and they were 8 years old and I needed to intervene in some way, the very least I would want them working with a medical doctor, a dietitian, and a therapist if they're losing weight at that age. And I love working with moms, but I also see that moms are a lot of times the problem. So the comments that they're making to them, the restrictions that they're putting on them, those things, that is not going to be fixed with an app where I'm meeting with a coach for 15 minutes if my mom is not necessarily following through with those things. I think, first of all, it's also, you're 8 years old and you're using an app to track your food. That's also crazy. That's just crazy in general. So I don't know. I also didn't like that it didn't, it calculated the red foods and stuff for me, but I didn't really give it any information. It didn't ask me about my activity. I did put in my height and weight. I made up a height and weight and an age, but it didn't personalize it for me at all. So I don't know how that works. I'm waiting to be matched up with a coach this week. It said 2 business days, so I'm gonna let you know, because I'm definitely, like I said, I got my boots on the ground here, and I'm really gonna try and see what happens with it. But I don't know. I don't like it. I think the bigger problem that I see is that women have lifelong food issues, and many of them stem from dieting early on. I know I did. And those are much more dangerous than being overweight at 8 years old. But again, like I said, I totally understand that if a child has a weight issue and it is affecting their life in some real way, not just mom's life, not just mom being embarrassed that the kid has a weight issue, that there could be an intervention that's appropriate, but I really do think it should be on an individual basis with a professional, not through an app with coaches that have no background in treating this. So that's why I think, because I've seen both sides of the conversation. I've seen people be like, I don't understand why you guys are so angry about Weight Watchers. It's good. Kids are overweight. But this is the other side. So that's where that's coming from. I do understand that, like, I could see both sides in a way, but from my perspective, I think it's really damaging. And I don't think kids should be going on diets. I just don't. I don't see any good in it. But I see a lot of potential food issues later in life. But that's coming from, like, my vantage point. Like, I work with these people who unfortunately have had to diet for 20 years of their life or more. And here's the thing, if it worked, they wouldn't still be coming to me. So it's, you know, if it worked, then they wouldn't be on Weight Watchers 20 times or any diet 20 times, not just Weight Watchers. I'm not singling them out. But I do think, like, I just don't even understand where they got, like, the ideas for the red and the green foods. They didn't talk about amounts of them, like, okay, peanut butter is caloric, so maybe be careful of the portion. No, it just said, no, you get a red. Yeah, they're creating lifetime members, lifelong Weight Watchers customers. It's a business still. So I don't like it. And I feel bad for the kids. So, anyway, so we talked about that. What else, guys? Yesterday we really dug into the food labels, which we can do that, but we only have, like, another couple minutes, so I won't start that now. But what else can we talk about? What questions do you have? So I think I'm really hoping this saves, really, really hoping, because we talked about GMOs, and we talked about glyphosate, and we talked about Weight Watchers. Jorge Cruz, he is, if I'm correct, the intermittent fasting guy. I stopped listening to certain people because I get upset. I know he was on, like, the Skinny Confidential podcast, because I think I remember people asking me about him. I don't know exactly what his MO is. He is an intermittent fasting guy. I don't know. He seems to make a lot of claims about it. I can't actually speak too much to him because I don't know exactly what he says, but I can talk about intermittent fasting if that's helpful. So intermittent fasting. There are numerous ways to do it. Probably the most popular method is called the Lean Gains method. It's the 16-8, so 16 hours of fasting where you're not eating, and then 8 hours of eating, your feeding window. So most people, let's say, if you were doing the 16-8 method, maybe you stop eating at 8 o'clock at night, and then you start eating again at 12 noon the next day. It doesn't seem crazy to me. Like, let's just talk about, like, what this would feel like. I can see it working for someone who maybe sleeps in a little bit, maybe does something in the morning. The claim is that that most people believe that this has some kind of hormonal benefit over, you know, eating at other times. And first I want to say, like, there are different reasons why someone might be doing this, but let's talk about weight loss, because for the most part, that's what most people are here for. So if you're looking at weight loss, it doesn't matter if you eat at 10 o'clock at night, at 10 o'clock in the morning, at 11 o'clock at night. It comes down to being in a caloric deficit. Unless you're in a caloric deficit, it doesn't matter what insulin's doing. It doesn't matter any of that, because that's not going to do anything. So I put that at the top of the pyramid. So first you get your caloric deficit down. Then if we want to look at meal timing and when you're eating, we can say that for some people, they might prefer to eat at certain times of the day because of their schedule. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But with intermittent fasting, the reason why it's successful for weight loss is because it cuts off certain times that you're eating. So ultimately, you're just eating less. You have less opportunities And that's why it works. Now, people will say like, oh my God, what if I break my fast? Or does coffee break my fast? Or whatever it is. What do you think the fast is doing for you is the question. So what a lot of proponents are like, I shouldn't say proponents, I'll say zealots, will say that insulin is suppressed because you're not eating carbohydrates. And they'll actually say, well, you can have fat because that won't break your fast because your body's repairing during this time. Your body's repairing all the time. Again, we're getting concerned with like these minute details and not focusing on the bigger picture. Like your cells are fine. They're repairing all the time. They don't need you not to eat for that. The other issue is that if it works and it makes sense for your life and you're not hungry and it really is seamless, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it slows down your metabolism or anything like that not to eat breakfast. So if by all means, I don't really like breakfast. Sometimes I just eat my first meal when I'm ready for it. I also work from home, so I understand like not everyone has that luxury. So I either eat when I'm ready for it or based on what time my clients are. Because if I know I'm not going to eat for a long time, I might eat when I'm not hungry, whatever. So if it works for you, I don't see a problem with it. But I actually will say that there is research to show that these extended fasts are not necessarily healthy for female hormones, which they might be fine for men, but they can actually be dangerous for female hormones. So to me, that's already a red flag. I think a 16-hour fast is pushing it. I could see someone going 12 hours, maybe 14 hours, a little bit more realistically. And then when you get to the other types of fasting, there's the 5-2 method. That's 5 days where you're just kind of eating normally, and then 2 days I think where you're eating 500 calories or fasting completely. That's another method. To me, I don't really recommend that to most people or anyone. I can't see anyone who would like really benefit from that over just eating normally. Like if you were saying should I just eat normally or do that, I would say just eat normally. I see that being, especially most people who like at this point, if you're doing intermittent fasting, it's because you've done so many other things and you have a really screwed up relationship with food. So that is the last person I would tell to do something like that because it sets you up for the binge restrict cycle. It sets you up for being really deprived and like going crazy later. It sets you up for thinking about food all day, which is already a side effect of under eating. So I don't really think there's many positives with that. If someone came to me and they were like, hey, I have really severe insulin resistance and I have an A1C, which is a measure of your blood sugar control, that's through the roof, I still wouldn't say to fast for 2 days. Like there are so many other interventions that I would do first. So if someone likes the idea of cutting off their feeding period because it just helps them feel better and it makes sense for their schedule, that's fine for me. There's nothing really magical about it. So yes, that's my thoughts. They do show like there are studies too that show like really prolonged periods of fasting, like going weeks without food has prolonged longevity. To me, like I'd rather be on this earth for less time and not starve myself for 3 weeks, but that's I mean, like, we're starting to look at, like, monks and, like, what they do. Like, that's religious practices, and people are going on water fast and all this stuff. It's like, hey, I don't know. It seems like a lot of work to me. But I think, like I said, get everything else down. Get the basics down. Get your calories in check, your macronutrients. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, enough water, that your emotional health and mental health is in check. You're exercising. And if you're doing all of those things and you want to say, hey, I wonder if I could feel even better if I didn't eat at certain times of the day, then do it. But if you're a mess, like most of the people, I love you all, who come to me and we first start, like their diets are completely a mess. Not that they're eating all kinds of junk, it's that they're binging and restricting or they're doing all this crazy stuff. Like, intermittent fasting is not going to solve that. In fact, it'll probably make it worse. So, that's my feeling about it. I almost feel like it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs with nutrition. Like, you got to get this down, this down, this down, this down, and then you can worry about what time you're eating. Or insulin. That's everyone's favorite right now. So, hi Tiff. Thanks. So, I don't know. The novel, The Immortalist, addresses that, how severe calorie deficits prolong life, but is it worth it? Yeah, I mean, they have looked at like fasting research that like some societies go long without food. But I think like if we are taking it into the context of like 2019, Instagram, all of that stuff, does that really make sense? And is it something that we have to do? I think like spending 3 weeks of not eating will probably socially isolate you a lot more than anything. You won't have any friends left on this planet if you're living that long. So I don't know. I'm just also very aware that dieting, there's a fine line between like dieting and like obsession, losing weight, and the obsession with losing weight where it becomes a very unhealthy thing. Like you're so healthy that you're unhealthy. That's sort of like orthorexia. And I think that I see that way more often than like having to prolong life. I see, at least in my practice, the bigger problem is that people are so wrapped up in this stuff that it's really affecting their life in a real way. It's holding them back from doing things that they would do otherwise, or allowing them to spend mental energy and physical energy on more important things than thinking about food all the time. So to me, that's always in like the forefront of my response to these things. It's like, yes, all of these things are true and could work in a way, but what about when you put them into practice with someone who has a messed up relationship with food? So we're like kind of looking at like these monks or something that just go out there and they don't eat for 3 weeks and they're fine and it doesn't affect them mentally, and then we're putting it onto like our society today, and we can't really do that. So that's my feeling on that. What else? I went to Whole Foods this morning and I got some fun stuff. They have this confetti rice. It was cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots, which I like because sometimes cauliflower on its own, it's like a lot. So that is gonna be the basis of something this week, which I'll let you guys know. What else? Like I said, Oliver went to the gym today. He was really good. He's in my office now. He's taking a little nap. Right on? And my husband and I will hang out tonight because he's on call starting tomorrow all week. So it's like, don't go near him. No, he's very nervous all week. So we're going to have like a little date night, maybe cook or something tonight. But other than that, this was kind of fun. Oh, tomorrow, for any RDs or RDs that are just getting started, or maybe people who are interested in nutrition business, I am doing a webinar with Tony Stefan, who's one of my business coaches. And we're just going to talk about like early stages of getting a nutrition business set up. So I will do a story on that tonight to give the swipe up link if you still want to register. Okay, guys. Anything else? Just let me know. Hopefully I didn't ruffle too many feathers on this. I guess we'll find out later if I start getting DMs from like the anti-Monsanto people, which I don't know. If that's you, that's fine. It's just I'm neither. I'm neutral. Don't shoot the messenger. So, you know, I don't really get too many angry DMs actually. Sometimes I'll get like a comment on something, like of someone angry about something that I said. Rarely. I would say like my DMs are overwhelmingly lovely and nice. So hopefully I don't get that, but I could see this being like a little bit emotionally charged, so wish me luck. But anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. I really hope this saves. I'm gonna end it and hope for the best. So if so, I will put this up in case you missed the beginning. But anyway, guys, talk to you later. Happy Sunday.